In a world where so much of our industry is defined by scale, speed, and relentless optimization, every so often you encounter something that quietly but profoundly redefines what actually matters. And this is one of those moments, one of those biggest moments. Welcome to The Great Indoors, Adaptive Spirit Special Edition. I'm your host, Matthew Roberts, and as always, I'm joined by my producer, the one and only Larissa Yee. Now, this episode and the next couple that follow are very different. We're not in Barcelona. We're not surrounded by keynote stages, product demos, or the familiar rhythm of an industry in constant motion. Instead, we're here in beautiful Vail, Colorado, at an event called Adaptive Spirit, an event that has been running for over 3 decades, an event that Amdocs has supported now for 25 years, and an event that until now, whilst I've known about it, of course, I had never experienced firsthand. And to understand something like this, you have to start at the beginning with the people who built it. And in this episode, you'll hear first from Bridget Baker, a senior leader with deep roots in NBC Universal. In fact, she was the former president and the Olympic movement. And Steve Raymond, co-founder of Adaptive Spirit, one of the driving, or if not the driving force behind its creation. And together they start by telling us the story of how a simple idea born inside the cable industry became something far more enduring. From there, we'll move to some of the athletes involved, not by an abstract cause, but as individuals whose careers, ambitions, and futures are directly shaped by what happens here. Because for many of them, this isn't peripheral, it's foundational. And then we'll hear from some industry personalities themselves, the leaders, the partners, the people who show up year after year, not out of obligation, but because something about this experience stays with them. People who came once, chose to come back. And somewhere between those 3 perspectives, the builders, the athletes, and the industry, you begin to understand why this matters, not just as an event, but as a model. A reminder that even in an industry defined by technology, scale, commercial pressure, there is still space. Real space for human connection, for purpose, and for impact that lasts. So in this first episode of our Adaptive Spirit Special Edition, we go back to where it all began and why it matters to everyone.
Yeah. Steve Raymond and I were definitely 2 of the early people who kind of, it was birthed out of an idea of, as respective chapter leaders. He was Rocky Mountain chapter chair of an organization in the industry called CTAM, which still exists today. It's a cable marketing association. And I had just been named chair of the SoCal chapter of CTAM. And these were 2 new chapters. I mean, the headquarters of this organization on the East Coast had decided they needed more representation west. And Steve and I, who knew each other a little bit, as he mentioned, having traveled around on many state
sales pitches.
Each state, you know, back when there were hundreds and hundreds of independent cable operators. Remembering that cable operating franchises were awarded by city governments by zip code. So cable operators were all over the country. They were independent, in many cases rural operations, in places like Provo, Utah, and Libby, Montana, and Juneau, Alaska. And so states would host these state cable shows. And Steve was working at ESPN, and I was trying to get a cable network called CNBC off the ground. So we had met each other a little bit, but I reached out to him, as we are now colleagues in this CTAM organization, and said, did you get this directive, from HQ that we should host a golf tournament, our annual golf tournament? And I said, Steve, I'm just thinking about this, and all of these state cable shows host golf tournaments every year, and you're in the Rocky Mountains and I'm in LA. We should do something different. Can we not think of something more imaginative than a golf tournament? And that sort of evolved into, I said, you should host river rafting, because that was one of the big things they did in these summer shows. And I said, and I don't know, I should do beach volleyball or something.
I was currently president of a Rocky Mountain Cable Association, and what we did was we put together networking events, and we tried to find a worthy cause that we could support too, but also focused around the cable industry.
I had just attended the 1992 Summer Olympics.
Yeah, in Barcelona.
For NBC. And this was NBC's very first partnership with a cable operating company called Cablevision Systems.
Yeah.
Charles Dolan, his son Jim Dolan, more recently of Sphere in Las Vegas fame. They built the Sphere, and they have a storied media past and family-run company. But back in 1992, they partnered with NBC to offer something called the Olympics Triplecast. And it was a pay-per-view offering for cable customers. So we were way ahead of our time, but it was truly a cable broadcast partnership for the Olympics. And I had just come back from sort of that experience. And it was my very first Olympics.
Yeah.
So I saw so many different sports. And yes, it was the Summer Games.
Yeah.
But I also grew up in a state, which we talked about, that had no professional sports. I grew up in Alaska, in Southeast Alaska. And so I had seen a lot of more alternative sports anyway, you know. So I contributed in sort of building bridges to the NBC Olympics unit, simply because in many ways we got very lucky with our timing. NBC also knew they were going to have the 1996 Atlanta Summer Games.
Yes.
And so our very first ski tam, it's called Adaptive Spirit now. Back then
formerly
it was
known as ski tam.
Exactly. It was it was a play on CTAM, which by the way stood for Cable Television and Administrative Marketing or something. But anyway, Ski Tam was the name that Steve and the team out here gave it. And it really caught on. And so I just kind of, again, we were newbies in all of this. I said to Steve, let me reach out to this Olympics group at NBC. So it took some effort, but I got through to someone there and said, we're trying to start this, explained it. And it didn't hurt us either that the US OC, the US Olympic Committee, is headquartered in Colorado, just down the road away in Colorado Springs. And I think we got a contact there right off the bat, a wonderful guy named Charlie Hubner, who worked with the organization for many years. And so, yes, we were starting to build these bridges.
I was working at ESPN, and a good friend of mine named Bob Mazur, he had been paralyzed in a ski accident in Vail 43 years ago. But he made the U.S. disabled ski team, and he was a slick skier. And when he told me that the U.S. disabled team was going to be disbanded. They lost a big sponsor from U.S. Skiing. And one of my co-chairs at CTAM on the Rocky Mountain also knew the head coach of the disabled team. So he heard the same story. And here we are in Denver, Colorado, Rocky Mountain region. Why don't we do something around skiing to create some energy that we could maybe save the team? So we started to put together an event, a 3-day event where we'd have sponsors or companies from the cable industry would come and sponsor. We paired them with an athlete from the team. They could build a relationship, spend time with them, learn about what they do. And we had 250 people show up that first year. And for those of you who know about ski film, Warren Miller is a famous ski filmmaker. I knew his son pretty well, and I got Warren to come speak at Adaptive Spirit, then called Ski Tam. Warren was a pioneer not only in skiing, but he also had a lot of adaptive athletes in his films.
1995 was the very first Ski Tam, and I think the following year is when we had the association with the disabled ski team. And it was an important shift because, again, going back 3 decades, the big operating companies, the MSOs or MVPDs or cable companies, however you'd like to refer to them today, were not exactly in the beginning, the Rocky Mountain chapter is doing a ski weekend in Vail, Colorado. I don't think so. It absolutely was perceived as a boondoggle. And that, the companies are paying to send their representatives, whether it's either on what we used to call the programming side, which would be the NBC team or the Viacom team or the HBO team, or the representatives from Comcast, Cox, Charter, Mediacom, all the cable companies. So it wasn't as if in the beginning they opened their arms and said, oh my gosh, the Colorado chapter, geniuses, those guys out there, starting a ski weekend. No, that is not how they reacted. They reacted like, we're not doing this. We're not sending our people out there for a boondoggle of skiing. And it was truly attributed to Steve Raymond, his personal relationships. He had a friend who had been injured on a ski mountain.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
He had gone through some really personal experiences, and he heard through his friend.
Yeah.
And another shout out, Ginny Overbaugh, Ginny Cause, who was Steve's vice chair for the very first ski tam, also was involved with the U.S. ski team in some capacity. So she knew about this funding need over there. Really more of a crisis. If they did not get some funding, it was going to sort of disband. And because of Steve's personal experience, et cetera, they had this idea. They had the idea, we should be, they had the idea we should be supporting this U.S. disabled ski team. That's something the cable industry can do.
Yeah. So we raised a quick $200,000 in 1995 and realized we had maybe a formula here that could be sustainable and continue to fund the what's now called the U.S. Para Ski and Snowboard Team.
Wow. And that was 31 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And our perspective on that is because, again, Steve from ESPN, myself at NBC, Universal, later Universal, we were considered programmers in affiliate sales to all the cable distribution companies, right?
Yeah.
But we knew, we're first of all representing, successful, wealthy media companies, and we're calling on successful, wealthy media companies. Many of them, many started as family-owned operations, and in one generation, these family members are becoming billionaires nearly, which is, whoever hears of that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not the norm.
Yeah.
So that was a simple kind of, thing to pivot to say, hey, we have the capacity. We had done enough by then. Steve had been at ESPN for a number of years. I had been at NBC.
Yeah.
We knew that someone like Cox Communications might be extremely interested in supporting something like this, a charitable avenue.
Yeah.
And again, because athletes are coming from every city and every state, what's the overlap? Cox has operations in San Diego, Phoenix, Santa Barbara. I'm naming companies that don't exist today because they've been all gobbled up by other companies, but I can name 12 cable companies back then who might have been having a rough time with their city regulators or a rough time with their state representatives to Congress or a rough time with it. And suddenly also they could say, we are charitably supporting the U.S. Disabled Ski Team, and we have 3 athletes in our state who are going to compete at the U.S. Games. And suddenly this had a different narrative.
It has that's really interesting. How would you encapsulate the way you approach it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I'm still event chair, I'm board chair, but we have an amazing group of volunteers. We've had our committee members and our board members that really are a working board, a working committee. We're all volunteers. We have one paid employee. So you kind of have to do a little bit of everything. I'm a cheerleader, especially this time when we're cheering on the athletes after their success.
Yeah.
We just saw Cortina.
Yeah.
So a little bit of everything. I love to see our industry come together. That's one thing we think about is the industry's been supporting this for 31 years. And the industry, as you know, changes all the time.
I would say most huge successful companies, as we said, I don't see them expressing any kind of necessarily humility about how they become successful. It's often attributed to their strategy and their whatever. But I think there was sort of a focal point of foundational elements that set up adaptive spirit for success.
Yes, yeah.
And it is all those things. I truly believe this because it was the winter sport in Colorado where the U.S. Olympic Committee was also based.
Yeah.
And a lot of the training centers for these athletes, they're in the Rocky Mountains. They go to Park City.
Yeah.
All of them, the able-bodied and disabled, all do training for skiing in Park City.
Yeah.
Colorado, so we had that going. Steve represented ESPN, which was, again, you have a big company that's focused on sports and athletics and that kind of thing. And NBC had an interest in the Olympics. So I think,
like you said, had that gap and that interest.
Yes. And so I think all these things came together.
Right at the right time.
Right at the right time. It was this unusual event that happened not in the summer, but in the winter, in the middle of the country. And a lot of the cable operating companies, that were out here could be part of it. And I think that really grew. And then we could probably look back and see pivot points where specific people, when Cox Communications got involved and they sponsored an athlete, when Advanced Newhouse got involved and Nomi Bergman. I mean, you could look at specific things, but NBC's support has never waned. I mean, to this day, they still are a platinum sponsor, and they do support the Olympics. And I think it's an interesting question of where else that could have ever come together. And I'm not sure, because I think the very seeds of it were so specific.
Those variables for its not just its creation, but its ability to thrive were very rare. It's like the stars aligning at a certain time.
Agreed. Yeah.
So my next question was, what does the future of Olympic and Paralympic broadcasting look like?
The first thing Comcast did when they acquired 51% of NBC Universal, which was 2011, 2013, they bought the second half, was to write a big multi-billion-dollar check for Olympic rights. That's the first big thing they did. And it is interesting because I'm sure there is no doubt of interest from big tech companies. I'm sure Apple, Amazon, Google, Netflix, you know, what we used to call the FANG companies, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. Why wouldn't they come in with a big check and try to get rights themselves?
They're going after the rights of everything else, from NHL hockey to Premier League soccer
to Formula One
to NFL.
But to my point on, they're acquiring the rights to everything. So it's interesting to think about how that might evolve. I think as long as, and we didn't mention Peacock, as long as, you know, the Comcast, NBC, Peacock piece of it can be the continued, you know, host broadcaster in the US, I think it's a very, very important asset to the Comcast Corporation. I think that, you know, certainly I hope this continues to go strong. And I think as long as we support it in the same, you know, method that we have, these athletes are just tremendous human beings.
Incredible.
They're so inspirational, which is how we set up the first corporate sponsorship of a single athlete, was this idea again. Shout out to Stephanie Victor, a skier back in the day, whose story is just incredible, like all of these athletes. She arrived at USC, you know, a beautiful young freshman from the middle of the, I don't remember, I want to say Iowa, but I'm not sure that's the case. And, you know, had gone on a date or out with some friends and was standing between two parked cars on campus, near campus. And a car came barreling around a corner and smashed into two cars, and she's a paraplegic. I mean, the stories are just unbelievable. And again, we were looking at those links between where did Stephanie grow up, where is she from, and which cable operator is in that city, town, zip code, and let's get them together. And Cox Communications sponsored for 13 years, Ralph, I won't think of his last name, but Stephanie was sponsored. And of course, because Stephanie can go and give talks to employees, she can travel in all of the businesses that these MSOs are in, and she can represent them so well. And so that tie, I think, also was foundational in terms of the success of how this has stayed strong for so long.
It was also great to speak to two gentlemen that have been videoing this event for 31 years, Bart Garton and Alex Diadio.
At the time when this all started, our legendary co-chair, Steve Raymond, who's one of the founders, he just did a great job of wrangling up people at the time in the cable industry. And I was one of those people working for Time Warner Cable. What got me, and what I think gets everybody as part of this, are the athletes and how remarkable they are and what they do. And I saw the video at the end of the first event that I attended, and I went to Steve and then my boss at the, one of my bosses at Time Warner Cable, who was also a co-chair, and said, I want in. How do I be a part of this, and can I do the video? And as Bart mentioned, that's when I found Bart. And I said, I need a guy that's really great on skis. And this guy can ski backwards with a camera more faster than most people can go forwards. Yeah. And he lived up here in Edwards. He knew the mountain, and the rest is kind of history. Yeah. One of the things about Adaptive Spirit that I'll say, it's always about the athletes first. And second, it's the great friendships that I've developed. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I'm most fond of is Bart and I have become great friends over the years. Yeah.
Kyle Taulman from Team USA Alpine really told me how important this event is to himself.
And obviously it's a little different this year. We don't have enough snow to ski. Yeah. I've been all over the world this season, and unfortunately I don't think anywhere has been doing great, I think except Japan. Japan, I think, is the only place that has had a good season overall. But yeah, unfortunately we just aren't getting to ski here, but thankfully all the sponsors showed up still. I mean, they come to this event for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is to support us athletes on the US team, and we really appreciate that.
Andrew Kurka from Team USA participating in the Alpine was fascinating to speak to.
It's a great event that raises funds for us. I mean, at the same time, it raises funds, but it also networks everyone together. And to be able to come together over such a positive event that isn't just work, but also fun, outdoors, activities, and then a positive vibe of inspiration that the athletes provide. I think it's a very good thing in the business world, especially the cable industry. I've been on the U.S. Adaptive Ski Team for 16 years now. I'm an alpine skier. And I got a bronze at the games this year.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you have the medal with you?
I don't, no. I don't just carry it around with me. It's kind of crazy. So, but I have a gold and a silver from previous years. And so I've had a successful career, and I've had multiple successful seasons, and I can tell you it's because of this event that I'm able to raise funds, I'm able to get the sponsors, I'm able to get the funding that I need. And I've also been able to help people, let's say, make those connections inside of the business world. And it's a cool and unique experience to be able to be an athlete and then have a business that is questionable about sponsorship, but have them trying to do business with something else. And then being an athlete and being able to bridge that gap in a positive manner and helping two businesses to work together and to thrive. And that's what we're here for. That's what the athletes of this event do. And that's what makes it so unique, is because it adds that unique perspective. I do a lot of traveling, especially, as an alpine ski racer, we go all over the world doing all sorts of things. And then I'm also a professional speaker. And so I travel and I speak on behalf of a lot of my businesses and a lot of the different companies that sponsor and support me. And this is one of those cool things because it presents athletes to corporate industries, to individuals that are able to sponsor them and that are able to make a difference in careers. And also it adds an inspiration factor because honestly, like the business world, the corporate humdrum, come on, people get tired of it. You do. You work in the world, money's fun, everyone loves it, but then there's always that little piece that's missing. And I think as athletes, we provide an inspiration factor that makes a little bit of a difference.
Definitely. And I think to your point as well, I think for a lot of people in the business world, they need that inspiration sometimes.
It helps.
Definitely
it does.
helps.
Motivation helps.
It does.
It does. Yeah. That's what I do is I help people to increase their workforce inspiration. The motivation behind it. There's a lot of different aspects and a lot of different ways to do that. I do it by telling my story. How I became disabled, how I achieved success, how I built a business, and how I was able to grow, and then the unique perspective that typically I tie it into the cable world or whatever the company that I'm speaking for engages in what they do.
Cool.
It mixes it up a little bit, but at the same time, it helps people to feel like they're actually making a difference because they do. And that's why this event is so popular. That's why this event does so well and everyone comes here. A, it's a party. B, it's inspiration and it means more. People go from here back home into their normal work jobs and they're feeling ready to get it.
We see it. We see last year we saw our account executives that were here. They came straight back and they were like, Matt, we've got to go bigger next year. We've got to be more. This is really where it's at, this event.
It really is.
And hence why I'm here this year, and I'm really glad I've come. So So my next question obviously is, what's the attraction for people to show up? Rich DiGeronimo, the president of product and technology at Charter, has a strong affinity with this event and has for many years.
You know, you're a board member and a leader and a key player in the industry. What brought you into this?
You know, I was able to come as a guest. I think that's how a lot of people start. Originally, it was so Steve Raymond.
Yeah.
He's the co-founder of Adaptive Spirit. Yeah. He was working at ESPN at the time, and he invited me and my family here. And you know, oftentimes I say, you know, we got too much going on in life, and say no. But we said, you know, we'll give Adaptive Spirit a shot. And you know, from the moment I had my first conversation with an athlete, I recognized this was something different.
Exactly.
This is a different type of event. And the fact that my kids were able to go ski, you know, with a Paralympian, and they could kind of understand that, like, there's no excuses. You know, there's really no, that limitation can be overcome. And for not just me, but for our kids to kind of see that at a very young age, and they've been able to come now for many, many years, I kind of got hooked. And through that process, I was first asked to be part of the sponsorship committee. So trying to get sponsors to come in, to retain them. And we did a good job doing that, where we now sell out this event. You know, usually by the time the event ends, the next year's already sold out, which many years ago wasn't like that. And so we've built a really great reputation there. And then through that, you know, Steve, you know, asked me to be co-chair of the event. So I took on a lot more responsibility to really host it. And, you know, we have over 1,200 people that come to this event each year. You know, I view it as my responsibility to make sure that, you know, it's well run, they have a great time. And we have a phenomenal set of volunteers in our committees that really kind of help this machine run. And every year's different.
Danny Bowman, the EVP of product at Charter, summed it up perfectly.
We have, as a cable industry, been doing this for a little over 30 years. And I believe we've raised about $25 million for the athletes. Because this whole event is all about the athletes. And for us to be able to give back with all of our critical partners, you know, everybody's here. You know, if it's from Disney to Max to, you know, our mobile biller MDocs, you know, it's very special. Very special.
Nomi Bergman is a board member at Adaptive Spirit and is someone who has supported this event for many years.
And you're not just a participant, you're not just a delegate, right? No, but you're a board member now. You're an active, member of the entire infrastructure at Adaptive Spirit.
Exactly. Well, you know, I came for a number of years, and then you just kind of feel like, well, hey, how can I help? So at first I became involved with the auction, which was great fun. So really throughout the year, there was work to do to prepare for the auction. And the auction raises quite a bit of money, and that goes the money from the auction goes directly to the athletes.
Right.
And so that was terrific. And then eventually, I became a board member. It's just such an honor to be involved, and I love this event. Everybody really is very united around our common purpose for why we hold this event. You know, and we really hold it to together to support the athletes. And without Adaptive Spirit, I don't believe the Paralympic ski and snowboard team would be doing as well as they're doing. You know, we've done so much to support each of the athletes as individuals, and to support the team, to help them to buy equipment. And you know, our athletes have some of the best equipment. Things like that.
For me, one of my I think most wholesome things that have happened for me or to me at this event is I've had a chance to inspire some young athletes that have worked and been a part of this program, and then also Nomi Bergman, who has been inside of the cable industry and is a pretty prominent name, has been a believer of mine for a very, very long time, and has supported and believed in me. And I think just having genuine kindness from an individual that truly cares, not just about how you ski, and not just about the business world, and not just about what you can provide, but also just to see someone who wants to openly and willingly help makes me want to give back more. And that's just kind of, I think, what this event is about, you know. And there's the fun, there's the crashing, there's the skiing, there's everything that happens, and then there's the stuff that happens behind the scene that changes the lives of the athletes. And you know, if it wasn't for the support that I have acquired from this event, I couldn't have continued my career. You know, through this event, I work on a nonprofit program where I inspire and mentor young athletes that are up and coming on how to speak, on how to be professional, on how to raise funds and be professional athletes, especially in the Paralympic and adaptive world. That's something that's needed, and I wouldn't be there without this event.
That's wonderful.
And you know, to be able to see the lives of young people change for the positive is something that's awesome, and it's something that I love to do, and this event has given me that outreach.
I tell this story all the time. 2002 was the first time it was a Paralympic year that Adaptive Spirit was involved in. And Bart and I had the privilege to go to Salt Lake City and film the athletes in the Paralympic performances. When we created this video to show at our event about their accomplishments and everything that happened, it was Bart, myself, and Steve Raymond in a room. And we wanted to show Steve because it was our first time doing something like that for our audience. And when we finished watching it with Steve, all three of us just started crying.
Oh, wow.
And that was pretty special to me. That's when I knew personally that this was in my heart and I'd be a part of this forever.
Yeah, wow, that's wonderful.
What's one moment that was a defining moment in all the time and effort and that you've put into
there's
it?
a lot, but I think just to see, we'll talk a lot this weekend about the success of Team USA at the Paralympic Games. So for those of people who know about the Paralympic movement, Paralympic does not mean paralyzed, it means parallel to the Olympic Games. So we started to support the athletes in their Paralympic journeys, and the first games we went to was 2002 in Salt Lake City. So we took a small group of our supporters to cheer on the athletes and understand this is every 4 years, this is the biggest competition of their life, and to represent Team USA is quite the honor. But to me and to our attendees, what it also means is you see this perception change of people, their perception change of people with disabilities. You see what is possible, you see ability, you don't see disability. And this movement continues to grow, and that's something we're going to talk about this weekend. But I thought that moment on time, I really kind of got what the Paralympic movement was and how people with this disability and the athletes, you know, they have other challenges they have to deal with day to day, but their athletic ability shines through. It was really a powerful moment.
Yeah.
I work for Rich DiGeronimo, and he's been on the board and been the president. And, you know, he really was the driver of our commitment to be here. And I remember my first time I came, he asked me, hey, you know, we do this to open up the event. We have executives talk about new things the cable industry is doing. And he goes, can you talk about mobile? Because at that point we were like zero, right? Comcast had been out on the market for about a year and a half, and they were getting a little bit of traction. And I sat in front of all the executives and all the partners in the ecosystem, and I told them how we were going to change the game. And I basically kind of laid out the recipe, and we delivered.
Wow.
So much fun, right? For me to see how this is all played out, and just our ongoing commitment. And what's always really fun for me, this is kind of a fun little secret. My birthday is April 6th, and it's always the first week of April. And guess what this event is? Other than this particular one, because Easter was last Sunday. This time it was a second Sunday, but most of the time I end up having my birthday while I'm here.
That's cool.
So it's kind of fun because, you know, few people know about it. But not only just expressing amazing, you know, resiliency with the athletes and hearing all of their stories, and then I kind of have this little piece that's celebrating my birthday at the same time. It's really special for me.
No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And this is my first Adaptive Spirit. And, you know, we go all over the world at different tech events.
Obviously, you're probably familiar with SCTE. If you were at Samsung, you would have been very familiar with MWC.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you know, that's the monster.
I think Barcelona was my middle name at one point.
Oh, really? We just came back. We took the podcast there, and you know, the magnitude of that and the intensity of that. And this is just such a wonderful experience as an event.
Yeah, it is.
The athletes, the people like yourself from the industry, the venue. It's just incredible. I'm hooked.
Well, here's what's unique about this. Has been unfortunately a very dry year in Colorado. It's the lowest, number of inches of snow, I think, with decades.
Yeah.
And as you look around, you see what you see. This is normally what June looks like, not April. Usually everybody's skiing and, just having all kinds of fun, and the athletes are skiing with you. And, it just gives you a really unique perspective of when you actually. The athletes go to every dinner, because it's all about celebrating, and they participate with you. And just these stories are just unreal. And it really gives you perspective of how critical it is to be resilient and adaptive spirit.
And so, as we close this first chapter of our Adaptive Spirit series, what stays with you isn't just how this began, it's what it's became. An idea built by people like Bridget and Steve, carried forward by an industry and given meaning by the athletes at its center. Because somewhere between those perspectives, something quite rare has taken shape. It's not just an event, it's a community. One that connects business with purpose and performance with perspective and ambition with something altogether more human. And for me, this was a first experience of Adaptive Spirit. It won't be the last. And in the episodes that follow, we'll go deeper into the stories, the individuals, and the impact that continues to ripple far beyond Vail. And until then, this has been The Great Indoors.